Well, hello and welcome everyone to our 2023 annual national meeting. My name is Dee Taylor and I am from Utah and I'm a co-chair of the A&M committee.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Tamar Yager, and I'm also a co-chair of the A&M committee, and I'm from Front Royal, Virginia.
We're very thrilled this year to bring you an exciting lineup of events, including workshops, which some of you have already attended, social mixers, films, panels, candidate cafe, keynote speaker, climate scientist Peter Kalmus, and our annual fundraiser featuring Lee Camp. Our committee has worked really hard to organize this year's event, and I would like to personally thank them and on behalf of Tama for their efforts, their diligence, and their passion to put this year's A&M in place. And so they are Jackie Devigneau from Maine, Felina Farley from Ohio, Camila Harris from California, also representing the National Black Caucus, Holly Hart from Iowa, Starlene Rankin from Washington, and Allie Schmidt from Texas.
As you might know, there are many moving parts to a virtual event, and we're grateful to have volunteers outside of the A&M committee serving in the capacity of room hosts for our sessions. I'd like to recognize these volunteers: Lisa Kanar from Washington, Margaret Elizabeth from Washington, Ann Link from New York, Noah Martin from Washington, Diane Moxley from New Jersey, Lou Novak from Michigan, Rose Roby from North Carolina, Joey Namath from New York, and Matt Cleveland from Pennsylvania, and Rose Roby from North Carolina. Finally, deep gratitude goes to our wonderful staff, Athena Alma and David Doonan, for their support. The website, the program, and technology are all here due to their hard work and dedication to our party. This year's A&M registration has surpassed any year in GPUS history. The largest meeting was the 2020 PNC with 465 people registered. This meeting is almost 525 people registered, raising over $22,000. And that includes $3,300 for our Solidarity Fund, which helps them make the meeting accessible to our marginalized friends.
Again, we thank all of you for participating, and without further ado, it is my great pleasure to turn over the time to Holly Hart, who will introduce our featured film this evening, Ithaca.
Thank you, and hopefully I am showing up here. One quick thing here, I'm going to get speaker view. I'm not sure what's going on, but at any rate, it doesn't matter if you see me, you can hear me, hopefully. Welcome to the Green Annual National Meeting, and thank all of you for joining us for movie night. Just mentioned we have another film coming up Saturday with some of our Green Party members from Washington, the healthcare issue. For tonight, we're very fortunate to have gotten the opportunity to screen an important film, and thrilled that the producer and a member of the cast, main member of the cast, will be available after the film briefly to speak and answer a few questions. For those who registered for the annual national meeting but aren't able to view the film tonight or want to see it again, it's going to be available for the next 3 days. We'll have the URL for the website and access code up on our announcement page on Eventi after tonight's show, so you can log in and see it at any time through Sunday. The film Ithaca, and you'll find out why it's called that. It's film producer Gabriel Shipton's attempt at a film to tell the story about a father, John Shipton's fight to free his son and raise awareness about freedom of the press and journalism. Most of our audience will be familiar with the name of the son, Julian Assange. Just a quick side note, once dubbed Australia's most accomplished hacker, his personal ethics meant that he did not crash or damage data or systems he hacked, and that he shared his knowledge. As a side note, Julian Assange was also a virtual guest speaker at the Green Party's 2016 presidential convention. Julian Assange is best known as the activist who founded WikiLeaks in 2006, and he became an international celebrity of sorts in 2010 when WikiLeaks published a series of leaks from U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning, footage of military logs from the Afghanistan and Iraq wars and U.S. diplomatic cables. In 2010, Sweden issued a European arrest warrant for Assange. After losing his battle against extradition to Sweden, he breached bail and took refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy in London in 2012. He was granted asylum in Ecuador in 2012 on the grounds of political persecution, and fears that he might be extradited to the United States. And Swedish prosecutors closed the investigation in 2019. However, in 2019, in April, his asylum was withdrawn following a series of disputes with Ecuadorian authorities. He was arrested and found guilty of breaching the Bail Act, and then the U.S. government unsealed an indictment charging him with conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, also a violation of the Espionage Act of 1917, and alleging he had conspired with hackers. Julian Assange now faces a 175-year prison sentence in the United States for publishing documents. He has been confined in Her Majesty's prison in Belmarsh in London in solitary confinement since April in 2019. While the United States government extradition effort is contested in the British courts. Currently, also members of the Australian government, including the Prime Minister and members of Parliament, have urged the US government to release him from maximum security prison. So I want to thank the distributor and Cheryl Woolley of Bullfrog Films. Just a shout out, bullfrogcommunities.com offers many resources and a great list of films. Also, thanks to Dee Taylor and Tamar Yager of the Annual National Meeting Committee for hosting and organizing this, and to Athena Alma, our virtual office manager and behind the scenes support extraordinaire, David Doonan, web manager, and most of all, special thanks to our guest who will be arriving near the end of the film, John and Gabriel Shipton. That's John Shipton is the father of Julian Assange. Gabriel Shipton is the producer of the film, and they're willing to speak briefly and answer a few questions. And once again, after the film, they'll address the audience. There will be about a half hour for some Q&A. So many people may have a lot of questions, but so we'll try to get through as much as we can. We'll also possibly try to unmute if we can ask directly, but we'll try to make sure that people get as much in as possible. So without further ado, I will go ahead and share my screen now. There may be just a couple moments while we do a few minor adjustments. Let's see, I'm going to do a quick, I'd like to.
Okay, yes.
Yes, we have a few questions and answers, and if you'd like to go ahead first, I'll just introduce John Shipton, of course, the father of Julian Assange, and subject of the film, Gabriel Shipton, a film producer who produced and directed the film. You want to start, perhaps either of you would like to make an address to the audience. We have 41 attendees here from the Green Party of the United States annual national meeting from around the country. I think all very nervous and supportive of your cause. And I want to mention that Julian was our guest virtually at our 2016 presidential convention.
I reached Trevor.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
I'm writing. His name is Sel Heidel. He is, how old is he?
Should I?
70s.
Yes, go ahead. Why don't, somebody else needs to be on mute. Unless the Shiptons, perhaps.
74, you think?
I'm 79 now.
Or
Early 70s.
Early? Late 70s.
We'll have this when he gets there. He's on 15 minutes, he said.
Okay.
All right.
Trevor?
Should we, everyone, do you want me to say something or?
Yes, go ahead if you have anything you'd like to say, and then we can open it. We have about 8 questions, so we can, and I'll just let people know, and I'll put again in the chat, we have the film available for 3 more days. I'll put that in the chat then, but go right ahead. Please take this forward.
Well, I get, just a small correction. I didn't direct, I produced the film, I didn't direct it. Ben Lawrence was, the very talented director that brought the project together, and whose voice you hear in the film interviewing John in that kitchen in London. I guess I can start with just a update on where Julian's case is at the moment. A few weeks ago, he had an application to appeal before the High Court, quite a lengthy application with over 10 appeal points, and he'd been waiting for 8 months for the High Court in the United Kingdom to decide whether they were going to hear that appeal or not. And a few weeks ago, that appeal was rejected in writing by a single judge in the UK courts. So he has one final avenue, and that is a limited appeal, so a 20-page appeal, which he has now submitted, and a physical hearing before two separate High Court judges. Now, if those judges decide to rule against Julian in that hearing, which runs for about 30 minutes, his side gets 15 minutes, and then the prosecution gets 15 minutes. If those judges decide to rule against Julian, then they could order his immediate extradition to the United States. So the UK legal proceedings is coming to a very, very quick close, we believe, and we believe that his extradition is more than likely to go ahead quite quickly. So that's where we're up to in terms of the legal proceeding. He's in his 5th year of imprisonment in Belmarsh, which he's had to stay there that whole time. This legal proceeding has been going on, and we, it's not really a legal proceeding at all. It's a reason to keep him in these sorts of squalid prison conditions as long as humanly possible. So that's where we're sort of up to after the end of the film. We're still fighting, obviously, and it's very important that people in the United States, become more aware about this case because it is likely that it is coming to your shores quite quickly.
And what surprised me is that it was the New York Times, along with the Guardian and Der Spiegel, that actually had published what he's being, what has caused this situation. And like they said, it's been a real dampening, frightening experience for all journalists. Do you want to go ahead and go through some questions? I can start here.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Sure, yes.
So first of all, there are a few, I'll just go from the beginning to the end here. The question is directed toward the Shiptons. Has British government officials and Belmarsh officials blocked or in any other ways prevented Julian's access to healthcare, in particular trauma-informed therapy, as they refused to release him? Has he been able to access mental health care to help him survive? And this person is speaking as someone with an extensive trauma history with family who had been unjustly imprisoned in this country's judicial system. So he says he prays that Julian has been able to have some degree of care. Understand if to protect Julian, you can't speak on the matter, but I pray that he is somehow, even if his lawyer is able to get some kind of support. So did you know anything about what kind of health care he may have received?
Well, they have a...
Yeah, perhaps I can start off.
Yes, please.
Oh, you go.
No, go.
Yeah. So when Julian first was taken into the prison in 2019, he wasn't receiving, the care that he needed. He was being kept in, the worst, the deepest, darkest place in that prison. He was, when I went to see him in 2019, he was in an absolute state that I'd never seen him in before. I left the prison that day thinking that I might never see him again, that he might take his own life. But gradually over time, the prison conditions sort of have the care that he's been getting inside that prison has improved, and he's been able to get medical care there, as well as treatment for his medical conditions. And it wasn't, the interesting thing about this and where we sort of think the solution will come to this is that, it wasn't through his lawyers that the situation changed for him in the prison. It wasn't through the politicians that have been advocating that his situation changed within the prison. It wasn't through all these politicians, but it was through the actual prisoners. The prisoners saw how Julian was being treated inside the prison, and they were motivated to petition the prison governor. And the prisoners there did 3 petitions until Julian was moved from the hell wing of the prison into the over 50s wing. So it was really this sort of bottom up, even within the prison system, this bottom up movement that led to a change in Julian's prison circumstances. That being said, the prison conditions he is in now are much better than what he would face if he's extradited to the United States. As I said, he's able to get the care that he needs for his condition and able to see his family on a weekly basis. He's able to see his wife Stella and their 2 small children. And so that's what's really keeping him going, keeping him alive and being able to fight this case. And if he were extradited, then those things would be taken away. He would be kept in much worse conditions that he's in now, and that's why we're really fighting this extradition. John, if you want to add anything.
Yeah. Julian's kept in Belmarsh maximum security prison within the circumstances that Gabriel just described. But it's important to remember that he's kept in a maximum security prison in the United Kingdom in order to repress his voice. You know, he's not allowed to make statements. He's not allowed to write and post things publicly. He can write replies to people's inquiries, you know, letters, personal letters, and he can see his lawyers. But he's kept incommunicado deliberately in his maximum security prison so that he can't defend himself upon the platforms that are available to him. It's best to keep that in mind all the time. It's a deliberate, malicious policy of the United Kingdom government in concert with the Department of Justice, a section of the Department of Justice.
I'm going to try to make you panelists, but if I can't, I'll just continue to read some questions, and there are several supportive things. But I wanted to mention one that looks, a couple that look important here. What could the government of Australia do? What about the United Nations? And what can we as Americans do to help get Julian released?
Can I have first go this time?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just for the people of the United States, a great gift to civil life of the United States was the Bill of Rights, and in particular, the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights. It's echoed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Section 26, which was adopted by the United Nations in 1948, and it was under the aegis of Eleanor Roosevelt and the Australian Herbert Bear Everett. Section 26, everyone has a right to education. So this mirrors the First Amendment. Without the First Amendment, there's no possibility of educating yourself, your children, or your society or nation. And just to keep in mind that education is a strategic asset of a family, of a person, and of a nation. So defending Julian, simultaneously defending the First Amendment, will bring freedom of speech back into the United States social and legal system, and it will free Julian. These are a double blessing in the defense of Julian Assange.
Continue. I don't know that, are you two able to see the Q&A here? I'm just
Yes.
Okay. So if you
Yes,
see something you want to just jump in, one thing is not a question, but a comment from those who have protested the war, including the Iraq War in 2003. Thank you, and thank Julian and Stella for preservation in the cause of justice. If you could come up with a quote to summarize your journey to free Julian, and what was the most frustrating part of making the film?
I mean, filmmaking is, you know, it's pretty hard as it is, you know, for filmmakers out there to get their ideas off the ground, particularly independent filmmakers outside of like studio system and normal routes of distribution. But when you're making a political film, you know, it's just, you know, I think, you know, signing up for some sort of torture. But I think what really drove us forward, or drove me forward, was the personal connection. You know, we felt that this film had to be made. We had to get this story out. We had to tell a different side of a story to Julian's persecution, how we experienced it as his family, because so much of what John does and what Stella does is really changing the narrative around Julian's persecution and pulling down the old narratives that were pushed forward for years and years by the legacy media, and putting out the truthful narrative that we experienced. So this film was incredibly important in that respect, and having it be so close to me personally gave us that extra drive to really get it made. But I think the hardest part is always getting through the gatekeepers. You know, the entertainment and the film industry and the media is full of these gatekeepers at every stop along the way. You know, who want to block stories like these, or keep them from being seen by the public, or keep them off platforms like Netflix or Amazon, and really trying to get past it and get it to audiences. That's been the most challenging part about making this film. I mean, we've got some great reviews. Critics have actually really loved this film. You know, we've gotten 4-star reviews in newspapers like The Guardian, the Financial Times, and things like that in London, The Age in Australia. So it's really, to audiences, I think, has been the most challenging part of making this film. But you know, with little communities and community screenings like this, you know, we've managed to tour with the film all over the world. You know, John's about to go to Brazil to show the film over there. We've been on television many times in Mexico. We've been on television broadcast in the United Kingdom, television broadcast in Australia. So it's sort of the little film that could, this one. It's been making its way around the world and getting in front of millions of people. It's had millions of views now. So we're very, very pleased that it's getting great reactions from audiences, but also making its way around the world. And I think John's probably, you know, best off to give you a quote or a little something that summarizes for Julian.
Well, I don't want to, you know, hesitate to sound trite, but Gabrielle and I, and my own travels early on in this fight, found one consistent thing in the 50 countries that we visited. And this includes 60 events in the United States at the beginning of the year. It sounds trite, but it's profound. In every audience, everywhere we spoke, we've found two things. One is a yearning to see justice, to things to be just, and a revulsion at the sight of injustice over and over again. And we had 45 minutes with President Obrador of Mexico. And one of the things he mentioned was that very thing, that he had found in a lifetime in politics and his 6 years as president of Mexico, that people had a hunger to see somewhere some justice in life, and also that they were repelled by the thought and the sight of injustices being done.
Some more questions. Is Julian's medical care dependent on his being in the public eye at this point? And is there any collaboration from the Free Julian Assange effort with other efforts to pardon Daniel Hale or other persecuted whistleblowers?
Yeah, so yeah, we are, Daniel Hale, I've done, similar events to these with Daniel Hale through Code Pink, who I know are fighting for both Daniel and Julian Assange. But yeah, we're definitely, supportive of, Daniel's fight. They're the same, the same fight, even though Julian is a publisher and Daniel is a courageous whistleblower. WikiLeaks was set up to protect people, like Daniel, and protect the journalists, the courageous journalists that publish things that people like Daniel leaked. So yeah, definitely at every point along the way, I try and bring up Daniel's case. It's courageous people like him that is why that WikiLeaks was set up in the first place.
There are a number of comments. Thank you both for generously opening yourselves to this kind of personal expression. I apologize I cannot be more eloquent. This brought me right back to my own stories. I pray you are receiving the support to reinvigorate your morale. I am astounded by Julian and everyone in the family's candor. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for speaking at our annual meeting. And a couple people wanting you to be on, to know that Green Party candidates have been on record saying they would pardon Julian Assange, including former U.S. Senate candidate Matthew Ho and current candidates seeking the presidential nomination, Cornel West. I hope voters who care about the First Amendment and freedom of the press get to hear about candidates who support Julian. And is there anything, I'm just trying, and I'm sorry for those who are, I'm just trying to get through these questions here and get the actual questions. But is there anything else that either of you want to say? I know you wanted to just mention a little bit more about your own efforts and how people might be able to support that.
I'd just like to say that we did so far 3 platforms with Cornel West, and found him really magnificent example of American culture and life. It's a wonderful man.
Yeah, very important to have his voice during these times, I think, particularly around the presidential campaign. So,
does anybody else have any other questions? Go West, free Assange. And I'm seeing a lot of these emojis of support here. Do any of the other panelists have things that they'd like to, questions you'd like to say, or do you have? I know you were maybe hoping to give a plug for your efforts.
Yeah, so I people can go to Assange.org. That's the US home for all the activist efforts that are happening across the United States. They do things like lots of awareness campaigns, as well as targeted lobbying that's necessary at the moment. In Congress and the Senate to try and get a little bit more action from your representatives there. One recent action that was countrywide all around the United States was a banner drop that they organized, and that went amazingly well. There were hundreds of banners dropped on Julian's birthday all around the United States. And so, yeah, if you go to Assange Defense and sign up with them, you can find out about more actions that are happening, and what's happening next in Julian's case. So, yeah, AssangeDefense.org for anybody who'd like to get more involved.
Thank you. Yeah, AssangeDefense.org. I of course got zapped. There was some interference the first time you said it, but AssangeDefense.org, and I see that that's been. Thank you for Steve for putting that in there. And then I also put in the chat again the website and the password. Those, and I apologize. This was our first attempt at trying to do the film. We did some practice run, but some people were saying it was choppy. I could not see anything on my end that was a problem. So I'm hoping that it didn't look too bad. And if for those who had that issue, and then again, you can always watch it again through the next 3 days. Is there anything else, any further questions, and anything else that John Shipton or Gabriel Shipton that you would like to leave us with?
Just thanks very much, and yeah, more strength to your arm, and good luck in the coming election period. It's going to be very interesting. We have just quickly support from Marianne Williamson. Have support from Cornell, and we have support from Bobby Kennedy. And I believe that on the Republican side, Sevek Ramasay has said that he would, if elected, move to Free Julian. So in the candidates, there is some understanding that the matter of Julian Assange is principally free speech, First Amendment. Yeah.
There was one final question, so, and what is Ithaca? The relevance of the term Ithaca. I think that kind of Western history isn't taught much anymore. So.
When we were on the, I guess you saw in the film there was some pretty tough times when we were on the road. We hit some speed bumps along the way, and things don't always go the way we'd like them to, in this fight to free Julian. So, when we were on the road, John would listen to a poem by C.P. Cavafy, a Greek-Egyptian poet called Ithaca. A particular reading by Sean Connery is available on YouTube, which is quite good if anybody'd like to look it up. But I guess it's a little, and it just it's a sort of reminder that, when you're fighting in life, it's not always it's not always about the destination or where you're headed, but the journey that you're on, and the people you meet along the way, and what you learn along the way. And it's good to fight when you're fighting an adversary that, like the one we are. It's always heartening to remember that it's all the good friends that we've made along the way, and everything that we've learned, in this fight to free Julian, and that's what keeps me going. But yeah, it's just the poem is a reminder of that, and that's why I named the film after it. Yeah, it's moments like these where you connect with people that are really important as we head towards that that Ithaca.
Thank you so much. One final thing, someone asked if there's a place you can buy a home copy of the film, and I've put in the chat Bullfrog Films and that website. That's where you can get that, and you can, I don't know if you purchased it but you can find out more information there. With that, I just want to thank both of you for making yourselves available here. This really means a great deal to us, and as you know, we're a small group, but sometimes we can have some outsized influence, and we are certainly going to be hoping and working toward that effort. So our best of wishes, prayers, and hopes for your effort. I hear somebody typing. If there isn't, then perhaps we can close the film, and thank you for your time, unless there's any final thing you want to say. But otherwise, thank you very much. And once again, we put in the chat Those of you who want to see it again, or if people are getting in late or weren't able to see the film, you'll be able to see it through the next 3 days, thanks to Bullfrog Films. And the website and code is on there.
Thank you, Holly. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you, Athena. And Dee. Thanks, Dee.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, and have a good rest of the morning, I guess.
Thank you. Thanks.
Have a
Bye.
good evening.
I have to say, I panicked when I remembered the international dateline, and I thought, oh my gosh. Wasn't sure where that went if I had the wrong day, but
It's all good.
many thanks.
Bye, Holly.
Goodbye. Thank you and best wishes.